What is up, my friends? Welcome back to another video. I hope you're having a lovely day today. And today I'm starting a brand new series, something that I think you're really going to enjoy. It's called Behind the Samples, and it's specifically where I talk with specific sample library developers about their process and their products and what they do for the community. And it's really going to give us more of a back-end look into what they do on a day-to-day basis. And so on this first interview, I'm so proud to share with you my chat with George Strezov from Strezov Sampling, and he had some really lovely insights to share with us. Hopefully you stick around to watch the whole thing if you have time. I'm really excited for you to see it. But in case you're wondering about some specific sample libraries that I would recommend from Strezov Sampling and maybe other developers as well, I do want to give you my sample library buyer's guide in case you don't have it yet. It basically contains all my personal preferences, but I've also added in the prices for these libraries so you can really see what you're investing in. And I've kind of categorized it by the orchestral sections like strings, winds, brass, and percussion, but I've also included some ethnic libraries, some piano libraries, jazz libraries. It's basically an entire thing categorized, very digestible, very easy to read, and it's 100% free. So if you click the first link in the box below, it'll take you straight there so you can download it as my gift to you for checking out this video today. But without further ado, I'm so proud to present to you my chat with George Strezov from Strezov Sampling. Enjoy. All right, everybody, welcome back to another episode. And today I'm very happy and very fortunate to have Mr. George Strezov himself from Strezov Sampling with us today. George, thank you so much for being here with us.
Thank you for inviting me. And
yeah, it's a pleasure.
hello to you and to everybody who's watching.
Well, thank you, George. Yeah, well, first of all, can you please tell us a little bit maybe about yourself as a composer and musician and maybe how you got started? And then maybe you can also share with us how Strezov Sampling as a company came to be as well.
By pure chance, to be honest.
Love it.
Yeah. So the thing is that I was born in Sofia, Bulgaria, and I've studied piano all my life basically, but never really got much into it, and into music, to be honest, up to the time where I was introduced to by a friend of mine to music software, which was, I think I was 14 at that time, and the software in question was Fruity Loops, right now.
Oh yeah.
FL Studio. Yeah, so I started with it, and being able to write music actually got a spark in me that I never actually thought it existed before. So yeah, and at that time I was also a huge fan of fantasy, the fantasy genre. So I tried, writing music in the style of Howard Shore and John Williams, very far away from it basically, because I was just using the synths,
right?
Not even samples,
right.
Synths. At that time, everybody was using Giga Studio and Giga samples, and that was way too complicated for me, up to the point where I actually got introduced to East West.
Okay.
Yeah, that was my first, kick into the soundtrack realm. And yeah, since that time, I've actually started working on a lot of films, short films, documentaries, TV music, like background stuff and commercials, stuff that I don't like to do right nowadays. But at that time, it was just a very good like school of music, I would say.
Right.
And I even had a very low quality job, which was I had to write 1 hour of music for a documentary TV, which was sold into hotels and hospitals. So you basically have like 1 minute 40 of just sceneries or just museums or just some castles and stuff.
Wow.
And they needed like tons of music, and they paid me, sit down, they paid me maybe around 200 euro.
Oh wow.
Per hour of music.
Dang.
And yeah, but at the time I was in school. My father has just recently passed away from cancer.
Sorry.
So yeah, thank you. So I had to basically find a way myself to get, some sort of a equipment
Mm,
like microphones, headphones, speakers, not to mention to buy samples and software and stuff.
of course.
So I consider myself lucky in that regard, because first off, I lived in a country that uh, had a lot of, stuff that needed music, and not that much composers and people doing what I do
Mm,
now for a
mm,
living. So it was a really good training space for me. And um, a bit later, maybe 2 or 3 years after that period, I actually did some tutorials about East-West products on Envato, on Auditudes.
oh yeah.
Um, and I recorded some musicians, like friends of mine, who were studying at the National Academy of Music here in Sofia.
Mm,
And yeah, long story short, this led to uh, a, a bunch of people just coming to me and saying, "Hey, can you record some stuff for us?
mm,
Some just overdub quartets and some solo violin, solo cello," which was also an amazing opportunity. And this kind of got me in connection with some great people who I'm friends with today, who are
right.
amazing composers. And so yeah, long story short, this um, connected me with Jasper
Mm,
Blunt.
mm,
Also kind of mm, kickstarted for music, which is the contracting company that I work in today.
mm.
And yeah, and with Jasper, it's been we actually started working in 2011, at the end of
Wow.
2011. And the first product that we uh, kind of introduced to the world was Tom Choir in
Mm,
2012. But in between that period, there was also a lot of other stuff going on, a lot of unreleased samples. We did a bunch of prototypes for Rodope,
oh yeah.
uh, which
Yeah.
is right now it's Rodope 2. Before that, we made a Rodope 1 with uh, the Zero Builder engine, but the
Mm,
first version, which was way more complicated.
mm,
Um, so yeah, and it was actually by chance. I never thought that I would become a sample developer, to be honest,
mm.
and kind of became one out of necessity because
That's
of my
great. Yeah.
composing career. A lot of
Right.
the stuff that we release are actually custom samples that I did myself.
Right.
I mean, yeah.
That's really interesting. I think a lot of a lot of composers turn sample developers have a similar story of just maybe being dissatisfied with the current state of the samples on the market, or maybe it's not the exact same like sound you're looking for. So you might as well just create your own, right? And it seems like nowadays it's easier more than ever to start recording your own sounds and your own samples for your own uses. And I believe that's how, like for example, Spitfire started as well. But anyway,
Yeah.
that's super cool. Thanks for sharing, that background about your childhood. I can really relate to that. I think when I was maybe 14, 15, I was inspired by a couple of friends of mine as well who were doing, music production on the computer. And I was like, wow, that's really interesting. Like, what if we could do that as well? And so that really just had some deja vu there. But I'm just
Hmm.
curious because a lot of people do know your company for your choirs, and I'm just curious, is is choir writing and all that a big part of your personal like style? Do you generally really enjoy the choir sound as a whole, and what kind of inspired the deep dive into the human voice? Just curious.
Mm. Well, it's going to be a pretty trivial response to
Mm,
this. Um, Basically, when I studied in the National Academy of Music, um, we have like a master's degree.
right.
And the master's degree is like 5 years of studying, but the first year is like an introductory year, so you get acquainted to a lot of of the uh, other degrees. Like you have to go to conducting lessons, You have to go to engineering to know a bit about engineering and so forth and so forth.
Right.
So my idea was to study composition, but the thing is that uh, I would say that the vision of the faculty, the composition faculty, was not the same that I had, because they wanted me to write a lot of atonal music,
Oh,
or
gotcha. Yeah.
yeah, or 12 tone, which was,
Yeah.
yeah,
I
and
know what you mean. Yep.
yeah. So
Yep.
that was definitely not my desire, because
Yeah.
I wanted to write film music at
Sure.
the end,
Yeah.
and never got the support I needed from any of the teachers there. And it's
Mm.
also a very tricky place, because when you study composition or conducting, it's very important that you have a good connection, or even an instrument. It's important that you have a very good connection with your teacher, and I
Mm.
never actually got that, unfortunately.
Okay.
So uh, at the same time, I started studying choral conducting in the academy, and started singing. I'm a tenor myself.
Mm.
I'm not a singer, like a professional singer, but
Hmm.
I read scores. I read scores, and I have a powerful voice,
Mm.
which kind of made it also very appealing for choirs here in the country to actually invite me on like recording sessions, or other
Right.
concerts, even film music concerts.
Nice.
And I actually began kind of falling in love with this with the vocal ensemble, because I never actually got you know the the connection
Hmm.
with this type of music, even though I'm not religious, to be honest, but
Mm.
our entire church music is based around the human voice. We Orthodox
Right.
Christianity doesn't allow instruments within the churches.
Oh, wow.
So in a way, we are very familiar with the sound of the human voice, and the
Yeah.
human ensemble,
Mm.
ensemble of singers. But I was never part of it
Sure.
from within. And once I began singing in choirs, I just fell in love.
Mm.
And so that's why, because since that time I've been singing. Maybe not that much today, because I don't have the time, but
Sure.
yeah, I was participating in a lot of events with choral
Yeah.
music.
That's really cool. Yeah. Okay, that makes a lot of sense. I'm sure a lot of people are definitely interested in, every developer's personal process. So just as in a nutshell, let's say, can you kind of share with us the uh, long process of sampling from start to finish? Like, what is it like personally for you? The recording, the editing, the post-production, what is that all like on your side?
Uh, well, first of all, I'm also blessed to have like a wonderful set of colleagues here in our studio facility. We are
Yeah.
sharing a space with Sophia Session Studio, and a bunch of other people who also work here, and all of them are composers.
Mm.
So we all use samples in our day-to-day work,
Right.
because, to be honest, most of our daily time goes with writing music. Either it's pop songs or like film music, um,
Sure.
and most of the stuff that we do uh, conceptually comes out from a bunch of projects that we're doing.
Mm.
So let me just give you one example. um, when we Since 5 or 6 years, when we started Fall for Music, the contracting company, I'm handling the post-production and pre-production, mostly pre-production department. So
Mm.
everything that's connected with score preparation, orchestration, and so forth.
Mm.
So in the past couple of years, we've actually recorded a lot of stuff that is like library music for Universal, EMI, Extreme Music, and so forth and so forth.
Mhm.
And some of them we had to record classical music on those projects, and mostly like Baroque music,
Mhm.
speaking Bach, speaking Vivaldi,
Right.
Handel, even Purcell
Right.
on some occasions. And since in Bulgaria it's very hard to get a very good instrument like the harpsichord,
Mm.
we were struggling to get a decent harpsichord sound. Not that there are a lot of those on the market, but um, none that are recorded in the same space where the string players are being recorded. So we decided that we're going to find the best harpsichord on, like, on the Balkan Peninsula, to get it into the studio,
Right.
to have the, like, engineers, harpsichord engineers, piano tuners to come in and just go through the instrument and
Yeah.
to sample it, so that the next time we get a recording session here with string players, we don't use harpsichord that's recorded in another space. We use
Right.
something that's recorded in the same space as ours and just blends in with the rawness of the sound. And it's also not overly processed, which is another thing that we don't like as a company.
Mm.
And that's our next product, basically, in a nutshell, a harpsichord that we've recorded for this occasion. It's not just
Cool.
about doing a harpsichord, but just making a virtual instrument that can be used both in the studio and also on a live recording session.
Wow.
And so when we have this sort of a concept in mind, then we get to the part of pre-production. This is obviously not for all of the libraries that we are doing, but for most of them.
Right.
We like to put them into musical context.
Mm.
So it's either me or my good friend Alex Kostov, who's our sampling supervisor, and he's handling all the mapping and the tweaking and the
Mm.
playability of
Sure.
all of the patches. So we create music that's made especially for this style of playing. So,
Mm.
for example, in Afflatus Chapter 1, we have the scene d'amour strings, which are heavily inspired by Vertigo and Bernard Herrmann.
Mm.
So what we did was we created music that is in this specific style. So we asked the musicians to play this, obviously uh, going up, transposing it up and up.
Sure.
And afterwards, we pulled the samples out of that performance. It
Right.
it was, yeah, it actually sounds way more sophisticated than it actually is. It requires a lot of effort. So
Yeah.
for example, if we have like multiple dynamic players, we have
Yeah.
to compose different music for each of them,
Mm.
so that the musicians are actually in the zone
Right.
when they're playing. Because otherwise you get people who are just playing like dum
Right.
dum dum for 5 or 6 hours, and
Yeah.
at the end,
It's
it's really hard. It's
right.
really hard to keep the idea of the sound in mind.
Yes. Yeah.
So after we're finished with the recordings, this is basically our entire process. So after we're finished with the recording, we start mapping them into patches that are created by our scripter Alex Koev. We work with various people from across the globe who are amazingly talented. Um, some of them prefer not to be mentioned,
Sure.
so I won't. So I won't. But our main team is based here in Bulgaria, and
Mm.
Alex is our main scripter. I'm sure that he hates me for all the crazy ideas that I might have from time to time. Uh,
Love it.
yeah, but yeah, he has been working on the polyphonic Trulegaru script, the Zero Builder engine,
Right.
and basically our bigger projects. So
Gotcha.
when he creates a patch that's based around, let's say, let's loosely say it's a template patch,
Hmm.
although we don't like that word that much. But it's a template patch based around, so the library has 3 microphone positions, so we have
Mm.
3 microphone positions, we have uh, an X amount of round robins and so forth. So then the team of everyone here who's been editing the samples, cutting them, we start mapping them into those patches. And normally you would say that's the end of it. You
Right.
map them and then you release the product. But in our case, it's also not that simple, because once they're mapped, we start doing balancing and tuning, but within Contact.
Mm.
So that we make sure that when you press a single key, like da 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 da, you don't get like da 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 da
Mm.
da da,
Yeah.
like an accent that is not needed,
Sure.
which is a process that takes quite a lot of time,
Mm.
because we go manually through all of the patches.
Right.
um, and then the job that, um, for example, me and Alex Kostov, we have, is to be able to go through the patches which are made by various people, and to make sure that the whole thing sounds very consistent
Hmm.
with the idea. um, and yeah, so in a nutshell, that's it. Afterwards, obviously, we do the UI experience, which we try to make it very coherent between different libraries.
Right.
We make the skin for the library, and then Alex is doing the final packaging. Alex Koev
Yeah.
is doing the final packaging of everything, and obviously deliver it to native instruments
Sure.
if we need to do like an NKS
Right.
library.
That's great. Wow. Thanks for sharing that. That's super insightful. I love the just the fact that that you really put in the manual labor really to make sure everything is as perfect as possible. Um, but that kind of leads me to a question I'm definitely curious about, and that is like, what would you say is the underlying vision of the company Strezov Sampling in terms of maybe like the sound you're trying to go for, the emotion you're trying to pull, and maybe share with us, one or two products that are just a must-have when it comes to the company as a whole, that really represents Strezov Sampling. I'd be curious to know your thoughts
Hmm.
on that.
Uh, yeah. Well, our philosophy, sampling philosophy, has been so far um, appreciated by a lot of people. It's it's been also one of the reasons that we've received some critique
Uh-huh.
in the past, and that's because we like to keep things very raw in
Mm.
terms of sound. We don't over process them, we don't mix them that much. you know we apply some mixing, of course,
Yeah.
but we don't do heavily EQ, heavy compression, um, saturation and stuff. We don't do this,
Right.
because in the end, you know maybe someone would like to use those strings in a context of a pop song, and they
Hmm.
will probably over process them
Yeah.
a lot. But if you have something that's a more chamberish, with just like solo piano and some strings, then maybe you won't need the same approach in terms
Mm.
of mixing. So we like to give as much freedom as possible.
Yeah.
Same thing gets applied to also some, we try to avoid noises, so we recorded a lot of material and then cut the unnecessary one.
Hmm.
Because normally when you have like singers singing really high in the staccato, you might have someone just doing coughing, for
Sure.
example.
Yeah.
Yeah. or
Definitely.
cursing or
Right.
cursing uh,
How could you?
yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's we try to keep it as authentic to the recording stage as possible.
Mm.
And in terms of your question, what would be the most important, not the most
Yeah.
important, the
Like
most
a newcomer to Strezov Sampling, right? Like what should they really focus on first? What's one product you could recommend?
I would say that the choirs, the Freya, Wotan, um, and Narva and Rudolp, because
Mhm.
these were made with the same consistency of sound.
Right.
uh, I would also say that Afflatus is it's a different library. It's always been meant to be a different library. It's not your
Sure.
standard string string library. It's just about covers, about um, different options,
Mm.
and giving you a specific sound in
Yeah.
in your need.
It's brilliant.
Um, we have a a wonderful percussion line, I would say, which is something that obviously percussion. There's tons of percussion nowadays,
Hmm.
but what I also like about our percussion, the thing that we do is that they are very, very raw.
Mm.
These are, we did a bunch of ethnic instruments, and you can actually do some like uh, real ethnic music with them, or you can over process them, and
Whatever
just
you
do
want. Yeah.
stereo music if you want, but you have that option. So I would say if someone is to be introduced to our company, I would say our choirs, our strings, which show a different perspective of the orchestra or orchestral sound, and obviously the ethnic
Right.
series that we started with Balkan and now with Jade.
Yeah, I have to say, Jade is one of those. I already said it before, but it's one of those secret weapons. It's like a dark horse of the lineup because you can really hear when you load in those patches, just the not just the raw emotion of the performances, but the actual like you can hear the room as well in the samples, which is really important. Some of the libraries, record in small studios where there's barely any of the scoring stage sound at all, and you can really hear how it's more bottled up and it's maybe not as naturally expressive. So that's something I definitely appreciate.
Yeah, with Jade, it was a very, very, now I can say it, now that it's been like 2 years. But
Yeah,
when we first started recording it, we did it in 2019. Basically, we recorded throughout the entire year,
right.
and we had the help of Setsui, who's a
Oh yeah, yeah,
fantastic.
yeah.
Yeah, he's a
Awesome
fantastic
guy.
composer
Yeah.
and brilliant, like multi instrumentalist.
Right.
So, for example, he's a trombone player, but also
Okay.
plays the erhu and guitar and
Dang.
percussion and tons of other stuff. Yeah,
Multi-talented.
and as we met here in Sofia when he came here to record a score
Mm,
for a Chinese movie. I think it was a Chinese movie or an animation,
mm.
or one of those. So he came here, and we instantly got connected
Yeah,
somehow just by talking about music, and we kind of had the same uh, musical taste when it
sure.
comes to Hollywood music, and we're
Hmm.
fans of the same soundtracks and etc. etc.
Yes.
And yeah, and we started in 2019. We started recording maybe in the spring. So we did some test sessions. We did a couple of um, you know recordings, test recording sessions to see
Hmm.
whether this is this is okay, the studio is okay.
Yeah,
So when we finally started recording, it was a very hard um, procedure, which he actually supervised himself
sure.
a lot because there wasn't any option for streaming
Mm,
from China uh, to the
right.
West. So, or there was, but it was a very poor quality connection, which dropped off because of VPNs and stuff.
Hmm.
So we had to completely rely on his skill. So we provided all the scores and everything else. We talked about the sound of it,
Yeah.
and then but you just gotta hear his music, man. I mean, he's
Mm,
a wonderful, wonderful composer. He's completely knows what he's doing.
right.
So yeah, he recorded everything, almost everything, and we had a bunch of sessions to finish. Maybe it was the voices, I would say, and I like the company ran out of money, so we had to, yeah, we just had to wait for a
Yeah.
few months to get some
Yes.
investment to get into the recordings because we
Mm,
weren't in a hurry or something. And
gotcha.
then one day, it was maybe November or December, he called me and said, listen, there's something weird going on here with like some sort of a disease.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So I would say that we should hurry up.
Yeah.
And we did. We actually recorded everything, and then the whole world went into
Shut down.
complete shutdown.
Yeah, yeah.
And
Wow.
then that was so. Yeah, we basically finished in December,
Amazing.
China went on a lockdown in December, I think,
Yeah,
or January maybe,
sure.
and our lockdown was in March. So at that time, March was actually when we started working on the patches themselves, like finishing them on finishing the patches.
Right.
And that was really hard for us because we've already kind of announced it. We
Yes.
never really thought that COVID was going to
Mhm.
happen, and what happened happened.
Yeah.
You know, so we had to actually create. This was our first library that was created from home, and that
Wow.
was really hard.
Sure.
Yeah, really hard for everybody.
Yes.
Um, but
Yeah.
but yeah, that was now that you mention it, I love that you enjoy it. I mean, it's
Yeah, it's a great
yeah,
library, and I mean, it just shows also the flexibility of of developers having to adapt to the situation. And I think it really, I mean, yeah, obviously it was terrible for a lot of people, but at the same time, I think it was a blessing for a lot of us as well, because it kind of forced a lot of people to try to make more of a presence online for developers and composers alike, to really try to put themselves out there more. And so at least for me, definitely it allowed me more time to really focus on this stuff that we're doing right now, and
sure.
content and interviews and all that. So quick follow-up question though. So what do you feel is maybe one underappreciated aspect about sample library development? What is something that people don't realize that goes on behind the scenes that maybe we should know about, the process? I know this. I'm putting you on the spot in this one.
No, I'm just
Yeah,
thinking.
yeah, yeah.
No, I'm maybe when I read on forums,
Yeah.
uh, a lot of people would say, you know what, this doesn't sound okay,
Mm,
so it needs to be re-recorded.
right.
Yeah, and it goes, or for example, we all know how um, absolutely focused to details Jasper is, and he has a very
Yes.
specific vision about his products.
Hmm.
And someone says, you know what, Jasper hasn't recorded the second valence.
Oh,
Let's
yeah,
yeah, just go and record them.
yeah.
And
As if it was
that,
that easy, right?
yeah, I don't think it's that easy,
Right.
because on some of the sessions, that would be like Storm Choir, for example, was recorded in 2 months,
Mm,
1 month and a half,
right.
with all the content that's within. Obviously, it's not back-to-back recording sessions,
Yeah.
but that was the time that it took to record everything, to re-record some stuff that wasn't good enough, to
Yeah.
focus on, to also not get the singers tired, because
Sure.
we can't just put brass instruments or choir singers for 6 hours straight.
Hmm. Hmm.
So this is, I think, one of the aspects that people think that we as developers, have a very easy experience, and
Mm,
it's a very easy thing to do. And actually, it isn't,
sure.
because you also have to work with people, which is very complicated.
Yeah.
Sometimes that they are annoyed, sometimes they're happy,
Sure.
and the material just flows and everything goes smoothly.
Yeah.
And the saddest, because at the end, I know that it's the same like with a piece of music. So when you write a
Yeah.
piece of music and you have a certain budget,
Hmm.
and you go in there and you record a live orchestra,
Hmm.
there's something that's just not perfect, like the oboe player, for example, is
Right.
a bit sharp
Yeah.
or something, and but you don't have the budget to do it. You know
Yeah.
it's there. You, as a composer, you know it's there. And sometimes it's the same with sample library developers, because we are initially kind of trying to, because all of us are composers. I'm not
Hmm.
the only composer sample library
Right.
developer.
Right.
So we're sitting on like on the both sides of the river,
Yeah.
saying, okay, I need to maintain a business, but I also need to like make this work for me as a composer,
Of
and sometimes
course.
you just don't have the material for it. So
Right.
that's maybe the one of the, maybe in certain senses, people are very hard on
Mm,
developers.
yeah.
They
That makes sense. I mean, I get, yeah, like you said, I guess that's with really though any product that you put out, especially as a creative, right? There will always be there's always going to be critique. Like you can't please everybody. And I actually think polarization or having something that makes people lean on one side or the other is actually a good thing, right? Because it really puts you in a certain area, and you don't want to just be, for every single person, right? You want to have a specific sound that you're aiming for, which is great. Out of curiosity, for people who might be considering sampling their own instruments, or getting into custom stuff, is there maybe any advice that you could share with them, like in terms of budgets or in terms of the process itself? You already shared a lot about with how difficult it can be, but also how maybe rewarding and fulfilling it is at the same time. But if someone's just getting into it, what's maybe a piece of advice you would want to share with them?
Well, get a good sound. That's the most important thing, because you can be the best programmer, scripter in the world. You can have the best UI graphics and stuff, but if the sound isn't good, then it's just not worth it. So I would say that just focus on getting the material right, and or the concept.
Right, that makes
just
sense.
Something that's that makes the samples stand out a bit.
Yes. I certainly see that philosophy in your work. Absolutely, that's great. So moving forward from this point on, obviously I'm sure you have lots of things in progress, and you already shared about the harpsichord, but what is some stuff that we can look forward to this year and in the future? You're smiling. I'm sure there's so much you can but
yeah, there's a lot of stuff going on, because this is our 10th anniversary. I can't say much yet about most of it.
Of course.
I can say two things for sure, though. Obviously the harpsichord. We're actually, fingers crossed, releasing that tomorrow.
Ooh, fantastic.
So we've actually started working on Afflatus brass. That's
nice.
That's gonna be our next project for the year. Beautiful. And I just want to say, I won't say much about it, because we are trying to stay true to the first chapter. By focusing on different sounds, different combinations, different pre-orchestrated versions. But we've actually, as we always try to do whenever it's possible, of course, we actually listen to all the people that send us a lot of suggestions. And one of the suggestions was that the stuff in Afflatus strings is not very coherent in between the patches. And by the patches, I mean the like ensembles or the combinations. So you have the C in the Moore strings, like sound that's very special in a way.
Yes.
You have Nutu about it, but you're not you don't have like spiccato or staccato or even pizzicato, because it was in with mutes. So that was the reason that we started actually conceptualizing Afflatus brass with this thing in mind. So all the sounds or the ensembles within, we try to capture them with the same set of articulations.
Makes sense. Awesome.
Yeah. So this is, but it's going to be huge, just like an amazing, very big library. It's the raw material is maybe around 6 terabytes or something. Obviously, we're going to
holy moly! Wow.
We have to strip it down a bit. We have to. These are unsummed microphone positions.
Right.
Yeah, but we try to capture it in a very detailed manner, so that we have different options for the sound sound of it. And this also kind of leads me to another project that we're doing. Again, I won't say much about it, but it revolves around the same concept with the articulation sets, and it's again brass. And we'll be announcing this really soon, hopefully in the next 1 or 2 months. Something
beautiful.
Like
well, thank you for sharing. I thought you were going to say maybe like 200-300 gigabytes of raw content, but no, 6 terabytes. All right.
Yeah.
You really went all in for that. Um, well,
Yeah.
George, thank you so much. I mean, that's all I have. And I'm sure our audience really got a great insight out of this. And it's always nice really hearing from the source, you know, from yourself. And so I want to thank you again for jumping on today. And yeah, strezovsampling.com is always there. So if you're always interested in checking things out, definitely head on over. They do some wonderful work. So yeah, well, thank you again, George. I really appreciate it.
Thanks a lot. I hope I wasn't boring.
No, any experience is very valuable. So thank you so much. All right, everybody. See you in the next one. Take care. Bye.
Bye-bye.
All right, my friend, thank you so much again for watching this interview with George. Hopefully you've learned a thing or two about the developer's process. But again, if you're interested in some personal recommendations for their libraries, I do want to give you that sample library buyer's guide, and you can pick it up for absolutely free. Just click the link below. It'll take you straight there. And again, it's my gift to you for checking out this video today. It's really just a buyer's guide. So if you want to, check out another library, something new coming out, and you're interested in my personal preferences, I do want to give that to you. And I only recommend the stuff that I would personally use, not the stuff that is like all, the extra frills and stuff. I really just want to share the best that I think is out there with you. So anyway, that's totally free. Check it out. And again, thank you for watching this interview today. Definitely more to come. If you want to see specific developers, leave a comment below and let me know which one. But I'd love to know your thoughts on this chat today. But anyway, thank you so very much. I'll catch you in the next one, and take care. Bye-bye.